Hello and welcome to Newsroom. We're coming to you live from Islamabad and I'm Sharmeen Ali. In today's program, we're going to have a discussion about the coronavirus situation in Pakistan and social responsibility as the government goes towards easing the lockdown all over Pakistan due to economic factors and due to the fact that the economy is facing a huge hit. And also, we're going to be talking about what other countries have done to ease the lockdown and how their citizens have acted responsibly in such a situation and throughout the lockdown and after the measures were eased a bit as well. Now, Pakistan's economy is taking a huge hit, as is the entire economy of the world right now due to coronavirus. The economy of Pakistan is due to shrink to minus 2.2%. This is the first time it's going to shrink in the last 68 years. Already before the pandemic and lockdown, Pakistan was struggling. The PTI government was struggling to bring Pakistan's current account deficit into balance and its trade deficit into balance, which it managed to do in a great part. But then all of a sudden, due to the lockdown, now further challenges are being seen because businesses have been shut for almost more than 2 months. And now after the lockdown eases, it's still yet to be seen how they pick up again or whether some of the industries do at all. Also, President Trump has threatened a permanent freeze of WHO funding. President Trump has said in the past that he wasn't happy with the performance of the WHO and had said that they didn't do enough to curb this pandemic from spreading. The WHO did take its time to declare it a pandemic, and also at the moment they're not enforcing anything. They're just sort of there for information and as a watchdog. So we're going to be talking about all these topics today in our program. To begin with, we have with us Dr. Noman Zafar. We're going to be discussing with him the coronavirus situation in Pakistan. Thank you, Dr. Noman, for joining us. First, we're going to go to a break and we'll be right back. We have some breaking news. Stay with us, please. Welcome back to Newsroom. We were talking about coronavirus and social distancing and what's the responsible way now to ease the lockdowns. And we're seeing that this is happening all over the world. Lockdowns are being eased gradually, and there is certain protocols that people have to follow. Citizens have a huge responsibility towards this to maintain distance, maintain a social order, keep a distance of 2 meters between each other and wear masks and use frequent hand sanitizers. But we're going to now discuss this with Dr. Noman Zafar, who's a doctor of internal medicine, and he's also a professor at the University of Florida. Thank you, Dr. Noman, for joining us again on Newsroom. Dr. Noman, yes, thank you for joining us. I would like to ask you at this point that Pakistan is now, we've partially eased the lockdown to a great extent. Shops are open again, although social gatherings are still limited and restaurants and all are not open yet. However, people are coming out in large groups, large crowds right now, which needed to be avoided. But what further, as a doctor, what further steps would you recommend citizens to take to ensure when they go out for something essential, because this is going to be part of life now? What measures should we be taking in order to ensure that there's minimum risk of infection and further spread of this illness?
Yeah, so it's very important. We need to understand that this illness is real. And I have seen pictures from Pakistan. It's very important that we need to maintain social distance. Because right now, as you know, we don't have vaccine, we don't have a treatment. So the best possible way to prevent this illness is maintaining a social distance, especially when we're going outside for shopping. Here in United States, people are actually taking it very responsibly, and any place which is being opened, usually they're like 25% capacities for all the restaurants, even are open, all the hair salons and other places are open. But what they're doing is most of the people are wearing masks and they're maintaining the social distance. And that's actually a good sign because the main way it spreads is very close contact. There are some aerosols, sometimes it does spread through that. But even if we are staying away around 6 feet, then the chance of getting the virus is quite low. But important point is the people have to understand that this is a real illness, and even if it's not affecting so much, yeah, on young people, but we don't want to bring illness to our homes, especially our for parents and our grandparents. They are more vulnerable. But this illness has also killed young people, young kids, very young people, men and women around the world, which usually the other flu and other simple coronaviruses, they don't that kind of illnesses or as compared to this COVID-19. So important points are, I mean, staying away 6 feet. We can open a lot of things, but we have to be very smart about it. So as far as we maintain the social distance, we are not transferring the droplets to the other people. If we're wearing the mask, then we are actually preventing those droplets to go to the other people. So very important thing people have to understand when we're wearing a surgical mask, or this surgical mask is not preventing the virus actually coming to us. It's actually preventing other people getting the virus from us, because a virus is a very small particle. But when we're wearing a surgical mask or a basic mask, what it does is it stops the droplets from spreading out. But if
Right.
somebody is not wearing a mask, then these droplets will come out, and the person who is next to them, they can easily get it, even if they're wearing a simple plain mask. Means to avoid the transmission, the best way is social distance and wearing the mask. Unfortunately, we have to avoid the handshakes right now and hugging because we don't want to transfer it. So, but it can be open. It means very intelligently. Right now, majority of the stuff in United States, they are open. Most of the businesses, except of theaters. And right now, Disney is also not open. You know, I'm in Orlando, and the main economy of Orlando is actually depending upon three of the entities, three theme parks here. One is Disney, one is Universal, and one is SeaWorld. They are not open yet. But what we're hearing is May 20th, the Disney is opening Disney Springs. So this is an area of Disney where you can actually shop and have restaurants. So they are opening at 25% capacity. And then the plan, I believe in June, they are opening the Disney, but they're also following the data from Disney Shanghai. So again, same way, they're opening in a way that even in the lines when people are waiting, they're staying 6 feet away, and most of the people will be wearing masks, or they might require actually people to wear masks while entering the Disney. And same thing, like the majority of the places I'm seeing, people are wearing masks. That's a very good thing. Like 95 to 97% of the people are actually taking this illness very seriously, and they are wearing masks. And I
Right.
personally
At the same
believe and
time,
hope
Dr.
this will.
Dr. Numan, the United States has over 1.5 million cases, and it's still the epicenter. So at this time, all the businesses being open, but you're also mentioning that there are SOPs and to be followed. People are likely to follow them in the United States because they're kind of more aware. A lot of people are not, from what I'm hearing from people over there as well. However, coming back to Pakistan, I'd like to ask you now, the fact that in Pakistan there's a large amount of illiteracy, people are there's a large sector of the country that is not educated, not very aware about the SOPs, and even if they are, they don't tend to take this very seriously. And Pakistan's cases are still rising right now. We have 43,966 confirmed cases and 939 deaths. And the largest numbers are in Sindh and Punjab, where you have these densely populated cities, etc. And so, with the easing of the lockdown, do you think that these cases are going to go up sharply? They did go up very sharply initially. So, what would you recommend that we do over here to curb that?
So I am worried about it because if you see the data all over the world, the places which are more condensely populated, New York, Italy, all these places, even England, so they have a lot of cases, and especially when we're reopening, we have to be very careful. We have to take it seriously. I think the best way right now is social distancing. I mean, I have seen those pictures. I mean, people have to be aware. I mean, that's I think as the media has to play a big part in it. That we need to tell people the people need to be aware that this is a serious illness. They have to take it seriously because here, what happened in United States, like 90,000 deaths, 1.5 million cases. Nobody want that number of cases or that number of deaths in any country. So I think people need to see what happened in the United States. People need to follow the guidelines, the mask, the social distance. And I know the Eid season is coming. Everybody wants to go out and buy stuff, but it's not safe to actually like congregate in like thousands and thousands of people at one place or in shops because you will be bringing that infection home, and it will be this infection. It will infect you. It will infect your kids. Infect your parents, your grandparents, and nobody wants to be responsible for an illness caused by you on your family. So I think that
Right. Right. And finally, I'd like to ask you, as we conclude this segment, that in the UK, they're planning to open schools pretty soon, and they want to bring about this scheme of trace and test scheme to catch the infections. They want to do that very aggressively. How do you think that that is good? That would work out when people are just being traced, the contacts are traced and tested, and then they're isolated, and then other people can go back to schools and public places, etc.
okay, this is a very difficult situation as far as the schools are concerned. Means contact tracing for adults is comparatively easier because in a given day we meet certain number of people, 5, 7, 10. It's easy to trace them. But in schools, that's why United States is not opening any schools at all at this time. Because in schools, in one class, you have 30, 40 kids. And if you have one kid who has virus, they will actually all the kids are being exposed, and these kids will go home, and every family member of their kids will be exposed. So there will
In the
be a lot
United
of
States,
contact
they
tracing.
are they are reopening universities in August, in-person classes.
Not everywhere in United States. In UK, they might be, but I'm saying is I am as a doctor, I am afraid from this. I am very concerned that any place where a lot of people are gathered at one place, that it's not a very good idea at this time. I know they can do online teaching. I know it's very difficult in Pakistan to do that, but here in United States, in UK, I think they can easily do online training. In my opinion, as a medical opinion, that we should not be opening up um, as as a full capacity. What I heard also is they're also planning that they are opening up like 50% capacity. So in a class they have 40 students, they're opening up 20 in one day and 20 alternate days. So the half of the days the students will be studying online and half of the days they'll be going to school, because here in United States and especially in Florida, the schools are also planning to reopen in August. But again, right now they're still not sure that will they be able to open or not, because again the
Right.
same situation when all the kids are at one place, and if one has an infection, that's going to be infecting everybody around them.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Noman Zafar. That's a physician of internal medicine and a professor at the University of Florida, telling us about his views about how to stay safe even after easing of the lockdowns. Now, moving on to the economy, Pakistan's facing huge, massive economic challenges like the rest of the world is. However, Pakistan was already a struggling economy prior to the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown. Now, we've seen for the first time in 68 years a 0.38% contraction in Pakistan's economy. Now, this is something that we haven't faced for a very long time, almost 7 decades. How are we going to cope with this, and what is going to happen going forward with our economy, the joblessness, and the gap between the rich and poor getting bigger? We're going to talk about that now with Shakil Rame, who's an economist. Thank you, Shakil, for joining us again on Newsroom.
Thank you.
Shakil Sab, just, Pakistan's economy shrinking 0.38%. This was predicted also. I think for the next financial year, we're expected to shrink by, have a negative growth of minus 2.2%. So what will the impact be on everybody due to this? As we're expecting joblessness, all the different factors, the impact on inflation and the rupee, etc. Please tell us what to expect going forward.
Thank you, Sharmeen. First of all, this is not the phenomena only special for the Pakistan. It's happening all over the world and at the global level. So economic growth is shrinking and the economic size is also shrinking for so many countries, even for the developed countries. So that make the problem more complicated for the Pakistan. Because if we look at that, so from where we get the expansion for our economy, traditionally we look toward the Western countries, or the US, or some European countries, for expanding our growth. But this time it will be very difficult to look there. So it will have the multiple and multifaceted implications for our economy. First of all, so what will be happen to our balance of the payment? And second thing, how we will pay back our debt. If there is no debt relief or there is no debt, you can say it's a relaxation, so it will be really complicated and a very problematic for Pakistan to cope that challenge. On second, when the market, when our export-oriented industry will not be fully function, so what will happen to our employment? So millions of people can lose their job, even if during the COVID. From SMEs, almost more than 1 million people have already lost their job. These are very conservative number. If you look at the real number, maybe it will be more than that. And especially in the future scenario, most of our SMEs, they are the export oriented. They are providing some different type of services to big industries which are relying on the export. So what will happen to that? Maybe the unemployment will increase. And the third number, on a dollar side, maybe our inflation, the value of a rupee will not go down drastically. The reason is that Americans are also trying to produce what it says to print their notes to just match their announced relief package. It will bring down the pressure on our rupee because when the dollar will not be in a sustainable position and will not be in a strong position, so it will also impact our rupees, which maybe not go down. So that is one thing. But if you look at the pure economic indicators on a production side, on services side, maybe we will see some shock in our rupee value. But again, there is another element, that is the oil. So oil prices are going down, but how long it will go down? One thing and second thing. So what will happen to what we are taking on deferred payments? Will those countries be able to give us oil on the deferred payments? I foresee it would be difficult, especially if you look at the Saudi Arabia. They have suspended so many facilities for their citizens, like home allowances and some other stuff. If they are suspending their own different facility to their own citizens, so how they can take care of needs of Pakistan, it will also introduce
Right.
some problem for Pakistan.
Also, Shakil Sahab, those Gulf countries which are now facing trouble with their economies due to the oil prices, there a lot of our workers are there and that send back remittances that Pakistan is so highly dependent on. How would that be affected?
That is foreseeable. I think we cannot imagine at this point of time what will be impact, because at this point of time we were relying heavily on remittances. So if the remittances go drastically, if we maybe go from the $5 billion, so that means our foreign exchange and our balance will be then very badly impacted. That will bring the new challenges for us. One thing, and second thing, so what will we have in foreign exchange in our State Bank of Pakistan? Because we were relying on that in addition to our taking some loans from other countries. That is one dimension. But other dimension is, so what will be impact on our domestic consumption? Because when these people were sending these remittances, definitely their family were consuming in the domestic market. It will impact the domestic consumption patterns also, maybe bring down, which will further complicate the situation for the industry on one side, and the other side. So where we will employ these people who are returning from these countries? We don't have any sector where we can say that okay, it's not a problem, we will employ there. But there is one sector, if the returning people like to go there, that is the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector, the government can consume, government can bring more agriculture land under cultivation. They can consume there by providing the better facility. So the government can maybe go for the better production practices at agriculture land, which can give impetus to the export and also can consume these people, because when the family will have more income from the agriculture, definitely they can take care of our unemployed people. But if the people they don't have the additional income, they will not be able to take care of those unemployed people. There are revenues from agriculture sector. We can enhance our export to Middle East countries or to the Chinese market. But it depends how well prepared we are. Either we are focusing on our supply chain management at this point of time, or just we are taking care of the big industry. So supply chain for the agriculture will be crucial to determine whether either we will be able to capitalize on the market or not. So my suggestion would be we should focus more on agriculture at this point of time.
Right. Also, prior to the pandemic, the industries in Pakistan were also suffering slowdown due to different measures that the government had to take in order to balance the deficits in the economy. There was a restriction on imports, etc. So, what will have to happen going forward? Because the industries are where the employment is. So, what is going to happen in order to revive those industries again?
You are absolutely right, Shami. So our industry was already under stress. Our businessmen was already under stress. This will complicate the situation. So what I foresee at this point of time, so problem there would be the huge problem, but the problem can only be solved by the joint efforts of government and the private sector. At this juncture of the history, the private sector should not calculate only the profit, they should also calculate the investment side, how they can invest in the society, how they can come forward to help the people. So it would be a joint effort. If the purely always say like that, in the next quarter the businessman say I will not get any profit, I will be my balance sheet would be destroyed, so I will not make an investment, or I am going to close my business. That would be not appropriate, because maybe in one quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter he will not make the business, or he will not make the profit, but at least he can help the people, he can help the economy to sustain. He has to understand if this at this juncture of the time he will not support the government of economy, in the long run he will be also be the biggest loser. Why? Because if he does not have the consumer market, how he can flourish in the long run? And at global level, there is no avenue where he can go and invest. So best choice is the government of Pakistan and the private sector should come together, rather than saying like give me this or criticizing each other. They should come together and devise policies. They have to make compromises at this point of time. There is no second opinion. So the private sector will have to make compromise. So they have to compromise on their profit. They have to compromise on their growth trajectory at this point of time. But they can help the state and they can help the government.
So, which industries can actually then be beneficial for exports? Because we had a balance of trade problem as well prior to the pandemic, and now everything is kind of gone haywire, and everything was unexpected. But as things go back to normal, how can we now go back to trying to boost our exports again?
Look, we have to look into which sectors will be in which sector can provide us a relief at this point of time. If we're only talking about the textile will not be able, because if we look at our competitors from Bangladesh, Vietnam, they are suffering hugely. So that's mean if they are suffering, their orders are being cancelled. So Pakistan will also face the consequences from those market also. One thing, and second thing, say if they are suffering, they will bring down their prices, so they will be more competitive compared to the Pakistan. So it will again be the problem in the short run. In the short run, there are two sectors which we can invest on. One is the medicine. So government already have the license from the WHO to produce certain types of the medicines or PPE. So they can export that. They can help us to in the short run. And second thing is from our other equipment, control equipment on surgical equipment from the Sialkot. If we can focus on that, we can make some money in the short run. And the third sector, which I already spoke very briefly and comprehensively already about the agriculture. Agriculture is the biggest area which can provide us a relief because it can consume the maximum number of people, especially from the unskilled people. Why I'm saying unskilled? Because if we look at that, at this point of the time, only we have the literacy rate around about 60. That's when 40% population is illiterate. And in that 60%, there are people who can only write or read their name. So there's a huge number of the people we can engage in that sector. One thing, and second thing, at the global level, the country would be in need of the food, quality food. And fortunately, Pakistan has been blessed with the good agriculture and the production and the different products like in fruits, vegetables, in meat, number of things. So we can make a money from there. But for that purpose, again, what I said, so we have to focus on two areas. One is the supply chain and other is the certification, because no country will buy from us if our food is not certified according to the hygiene condition and the health condition. So these are the three areas where we can make which can provide us a relief in the short run.
Right. Also, before the pandemic, also one of the focus of Prime Minister Imran Khan's policy was towards tourism, and now we've seen that tourism has been hit all over the world very badly. So, where Pakistan is concerned, I mean, our northern areas are natural resources. There's such beautiful scenic areas in Pakistan, and again, the transportation sectors, airlines are going bankrupt, laying off thousands and thousands of people all over the world. What is going to happen with that in Pakistan, in a place like Pakistan?
So what is happening all over the world? So Pakistan will not be any exception. But rather, I will say Pakistan would be on the losing side in this sense. We already have very limited number, and we were just hoping we will boost our tourism. And we just say our tourism started to kick off, but unfortunately, we have been struck by this. So that's why I foresee in the near future, we will not be able to get the maximum benefit from the tourism sector. So that would be difficult for Pakistan. But if we negotiate a good deal with China, because at this point of time, the China is the biggest exporter of the tourists. If we have a good deal with the China, if we can secure 3, 4 million or 5 or 10 million people from China every year, so who can come here for the tourism, that would be a good for us. And we can do it under CPEC, because under CPEC we have this one in the long-term plan. So the tourism, and especially ecotourism, is one of the key area. And you, as you are talking about these northern areas, all the natural beauty or the beaches, so these comes under the ecotourism. So we can ask the Chinese tourists or the government, so if they can provide us a relief in the short term, they can divert the other tourists towards the Pakistan. I think that would be good. And it would be if Pakistan negotiate in a way with some, you can say with some sensibility, we can get it. The reason is that in the West and America, the Europeans are maligning Chinese at this point of time to covert. So they are hesitant to receive them. So Pakistan can exploit this situation also in its favor.
Right. Thank you, Shakil Rame, for joining us on our program and talking about the challenges that Pakistan's economy is due to face now. You know, even after the lockdown is going to be eased, there's still a lot of different milestones that we have to reach, and it's contracted for the first time in 68 years by 3.8%. So a lot of work is going to be needed to bring that back on track. Now, going on to President Donald Trump, who has threatened to permanently freeze WHO funding by the United States of America. President Trump on Monday has announced that he might permanently freeze US funding to the World Health Organization if it does not commit to improve within 30 days. Now, he is also reconsidering the membership of the United States in this body of the World Health Organization. And President Trump suspended the contributions to the WHO last month, and now he is saying that he might actually make that a permanent freeze of US funding to the WHO. So that is because President Trump has been criticizing repeatedly the handling of the situation by the WHO of the coronavirus pandemic. And let's see what happens with that situation going forward. And in another very tragic incident in Pakistan, again, our soldiers have been martyred due to terrorist attacks. Pakistan has been fighting the war on terror for many years now, over a decade. Not enough credit goes to these brave soldiers and security forces for the work that they do. And most recently, 7 soldiers have embraced martyrdom in 2 separate terrorist attacks in Balochistan. We have with us online Mr. Ali Shah, who's a journalist from Balochistan. Thank you for joining us, Ali Shah. Can you please tell us a bit about this terrorist attack in which our soldiers were martyred this time?
Today 2 terrorist incidents took place in Balochistan's Bolan and Kesh districts. According to official sources, the security personnel were on routine patrolling in district Bolan's Mach area when the terrorists targeted their vehicle through an improvised explosive device. 6 soldiers, they were martyred on the spot. Their dead bodies have been shifted to Quetta for post-mortem. A huge contingent of security forces, they reached the spot and they started investigation into this incident. The second incident took place in district Cage, that is a Mand area of district Cage, close to the Iranian border. There was an exchange of fire between the terrorists and the security forces. As a result of that incident, 1 soldier he was martyred. In these 2 incidents, 7 soldiers have been martyred by terrorists. Chief Minister Balochistan, Jam Kamal Khan, a short while ago, he released a statement. He strongly condemned the incident, and he said that the terrorists would be brought to book and none would be spared. Similarly, the civil society, the members of legal fraternity, and people belonging to various walks of life, they have strongly condemned this incident, and they have demanded of the government to bring the terrorists to book.
Right. Thank you, Ali Shah, for giving us the details about these terrorist attacks that caused the martyrdom of 7 soldiers. 2 separate terrorist attacks have caused the martyrdom of all these soldiers. Amongst them were 1 junior commission officer and 6 soldiers. So a very sad development indeed, and we salute our armed forces for always going out there and putting their lives at risk to keep the rest of Pakistan safe. We're very grateful to them for that, and this very sad news indeed. That brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for watching Newsroom, and from our team at Newsroom and from me, Sharmeen Ali, bye-bye for now, and we'll see you next time.